What is going on, garden fans? Welcome back to the Permaculture Homestead. Come on back for the full garden tour today. As you can see, everything is blowing up back here. We are fruiting, we are flowering, we are harvesting. So come on back for the full tour and I'll tell you all about it. If you're not already, please like, share, and subscribe. That really helps us out. Thank you as always. God bless. April showers have certainly brought some May flowers for us, and we are just getting into the thick of harvest time for us. So I'm going to walk around the food forest today, the weekly walkabout, show you what's flowering, show you what's growing, and show you what we are harvesting at this time of the year. I want to start with the Zone 1 garden I got here. This is right close to the backyard, makes it easy for us to maintain, come out and pick. The perennial aspect is the goji berry. Goji berry are flowering and fruiting for us. I like that the purple goji flowers go really well with these purple, fuchsia, pink, whatever, rose campion I got growing up underneath them. Good companion planting. Also underneath, as a ground cover, is sage. So we got some garden sage with the perennial aspect here. The annual aspect are veggies, the veggie garden, and they're planted out throughout here. We've got things like chamomile, parsley, we've got peppers, a couple different varieties. There's basil out here. We have squash, a couple different varieties. And then green beans, a couple different varieties. Here's some companion plants in marigold. And then of course we've got the kale and collards that I've topped and let grow back from the winter. So we always have a continual supply of greens. It would be silly for me to show you how much we're harvesting. We harvest all the time. And then of course things like mint are still growing as an understory. Anywhere I don't want mint, I pull it up and I plant a vegetable. That's the same story with this fern-like one here. This is tansy. It's just a companion plant, not quite edible, but I enjoy it having it here. I like its quick growth, and you know what? If I don't want it here, it's easy for me to pull up and then plant something in its wake. I'm doing my best to start spreading the raspberry runners. We are harvesting raspberries, at least a pint every other day. And my wife has faithfully been coming out here and plucking one ripe raspberry off of every bunch of 5. So if she does that for the next 10 days, all those will be gone. Really, as she picks, other fruit ripen up. And there's a lot of raspberries out here, garden fans. Once again, we're getting about a pint or so of raspberries every other day. So this whole raspberry patch is filled. I can go to any spot and show you here. Here we go again. More raspberries, raspberries, raspberries. They're very happy here living in the shade, the shady side of my house. Of course, there's a lot more rose campion over here. I love this as a companion plant flower. Just looks good. It does bring in some beneficials. Flowering. What's flowering? Elderberry is flowering. And I've got a strong, sneaking suspicion that this is going to be our best year for elderberry. I could actually probably even harvest some of these flowers, make an elderflower tea. Elderflower tea has antiviral properties, just like the berries. I have an apricot, sweet gem apricot here that honestly has put on over 2 feet of growth since March. So I'm super impressed. This is a specimen that I have certainly done my best to kind of have a central leader that splits, and then it splits again, and then splits again. I mean, I've really been pruning this tree the way the book tells you to prune it for a home grower. So we'll see how that turns out by the end of the season. I still have all of our kale and collards. There's still a little bit of sage, garden sage down there as an understory. We still have carrots growing here as an understory. Pineapple guava is the perennial aspect. That's going to always be here. And I have a few of my pineapple guava that are flowering. We'll get to that. This is a giant muscadine patch. It is putting on fruit. I don't expect to harvest any of that till August, September. So this is the fruit that's on the way. Right now we're harvesting raspberries. We're harvesting blackberries. These are the thornless variety. Triple crown blackberries right here. We also have a thorny dewberry here that we also harvest. And the triple crown are putting on new canes. Those canes are not at least 5.5 feet tall. I'm going to cut through the forest here a little bit to show you this pineapple guava that is flowering. The flowers on the pineapple guava are edible. They're sweet and candied. It really tastes like sweet candy. So this one has flowered. I have one in my front yard that has flowered. And this largest one that I got on the property has certainly flowered. Really pretty looking flowers there. And once again, the petals are edible. Small companion box right here quickly. We got catnip, we got garlic chives, we got onions, and we got kale and collards growing here. Same story with the kale and collards. I can probably keep them growing all year. We're always eating greens out of this food forest. So what else are we harvesting? We're harvesting mulberries. A lot of mulberries too. And this mulberry tree, this black mulberry, has gotten a little tall for my liking. In a couple of months, once we're done harvesting most of the mulberries this year, I'm going to prune this guy down to a more manageable height, more like a shrub, a tall shrub, and less like a tree. So here I hope you can see all those mulberry on there. Same story as the raspberries. My wife is going to come out here. She'll pick the ripe ones and just wait for things to ripen up. In this way, we have a continual harvest throughout the year. Other mulberry tree I got, it has not put on fruit. This Pakistani mulberry did not put on any fruit. And that's a big question mark in my head. Well, here's one. Here's a fruit right there. It's not a lot of fruit, but it's put on a few fruit. Not too worried about it. I'm going to keep pruning that one. Also on the way, garden fans, like I said, we got a lot of the thornless variety blackberries growing. And they're all over the place here as an understory. They are the understory for this upper swale patty. And I'm going to keep looping my way around here. Here is the back area, some of the more wild parts. There's more of those muscadines. Let's check out the plums. Plum, 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 plum. Here we go. So now if you've been following for a while, you saw that a lot of these bunches of plums, they were big bunches, and now I'm getting down to smaller bunches. They're starting to naturally prune themselves out, and they're just now starting to get a little color to them. So if I can keep these guys regularly watered, in another month or so, they'll be ready to eat. Chickens are doing a good job coming out here and breaking pest cycles, any pests underneath these trees. So the plums have actually always done really well for us here in South Carolina. Peaches, not so much for some reason. So lots and lots and lots and lots of plums coming on. We'll see how it goes this year. Along the fence line, there are muscadines and blackberries growing together as friends and companions. They are not hindered, they are not harmed. They're working well together. The grapes end up being a perennial aspect, while the blackberries, you know, are annual. They'll come, they'll fruit, they'll die. So nothing wrong with that. More blackberries we're harvesting. Here's one of my favorites that's starting to come up this year. This is passion fruit, passion flower. Keep in touch. If you're not already subscribed to see those flowers, this is one of my favorite flowers of the year to watch. Getting to the back here. It's one of the more wild areas. It's a lot of stuff growing. We have elderberry, we have beautyberry, we have an understory of bee balm. I do let things like goldenrod grow up here. It's a good pollen source for bees late in the year. Pomegranates, we got a bunch of pomegranates on site. They have flowered. Here's a flower. So just like at the project site, the pomegranates at my home are now flowering. They're putting on a good amount of growth. Here's some more veggies we're growing in the food forest. Zucchini, squash, peppers, things like that. We let the weeds grow. We add lamb's quarters to every salad that we eat. And let me just take a big panning look at all this, because this is just crazy. Now, once again, if you've been here for a while, you'll know that these peach trees used to be the majority the big part of the canopy. And now what we're getting is the pawpaws as the new overstory. So I got a whole mash of pawpaws here. They have autumn olive as nitrogen fixation. They all have comfrey underneath them for mineral support. Once again, they're flowering, looking good. So at one time I had peach trees as an overstory. They got to be too cumbersome, too much to work for, and now I have pawpaws that are getting a little more sun, and already they're starting to blow up this year. They'll be the new overstory. Veggies, I want to talk veggies because I do grow vegetables inside my food forest. These veggies get a good amount of shade, believe it or not, which is good. Vegetables, not all vegetables need full sun, believe it or not. In some cases, actually, veggies like a little shade, believe it or not. These plants, if they were to grow in a forest, they would not be overstory plants. They would be on the ground. These are ground covers. So to get a little shade to these plants is not wrong. And in fact, in the heat of South Carolina, they're actually thriving here in the shade of this elderberry patch and these trees around it. So it's just a sneaky little vegetable keyhole bed hiding inside my food forest. It gets plenty of shade, it gets plenty of water. It's not row and column style planting for sure. This is planting in bunches. And we have things like acorn squash. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Talk about fungally dominated networks. Look at that. Look at that. So we definitely have mushrooms here on site. We definitely have good soil being made. We definitely have the fungally dominated networks growing. We have acorn squash, zucchini squash, basil, peppers, and also green beans growing here with companions like marigold. So this is just a small little vegetable garden. Here's some catnip at the base of that tree. And that is how I grow my vegetables, garden fans. This is for self-sufficiency. I'm not growing to feed a whole family. I'm growing to feed my family, but I'm not growing, a whole farm of food here. This is enough for me and my wife. We should be able to survive on most of this if we had to. Another small vegetable garden. This is planted a little bit later than all the other vegetables I've showed you, so you can kind of see the progression. This was planted about a week and a half ago. This was planted over 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that's where we're at, garden fans. Things are really starting to come along. Pawpaws are looking good. All the trees are looking good. We're starting to harvest. And if you're not already, please subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you got any questions about permaculture, about anything going on here, just ask. We appreciate y'all. We can't do this without you. God bless.